Okay, you're having a pizza party and now you need something delicious to finish off the evening. So a simple dessert will just fit the bill. So how about something seasonal where you could adapt it based on just whatever fruit's available? And what if you had ready-made puff pastry that would make it super simple? This is why I love this dish. I can make it in a pinch as long as I have some frozen puff pastry on hand, and it's perfect for a pizza party because with all the work you put into making your beautiful dough and all the toppings, you need something simple to round things out and delicious, of course. So for each free-form pie or galette, you will need a half a package of puff pastry. So that's a 400-gram pastry sheets. Okay, so I've got mine cut in half there so I can make two. And we're gonna need a little bit of flour just to roll out our pastry. We need a teaspoon of lemon zest per dessert, 5 cups of fruit, a half a cup of granulated sugar or more depending on the fruit and how sweet it is, 2 tablespoons up to 1/4 cup of cornstarch depending on your fruit and how much liquid is in it, 1 egg and a 1/4 cup of raw coarse sugar for sprinkling on the outside, and then about a half a teaspoon of ground cinnamon and just a pinch of nutmeg. So today I thought I would demonstrate a peach and plum, because remember, what grows together goes together. So we've got some peaches and plums here that are currently in season in September. And then the old standby is apples. You'll always have apples on hand, so you can always make this in a pinch. Okay, here we are. We've got our puff pastry ready to go. So this is half of a 400-gram pack. And I've got a little bit of flour on the bottom and I've dusted a little bit on the top. You could also take this opportunity to preheat your oven. So if you're using an indoor oven, you want to pop your stone in the oven at 475 degrees. So ideally, it's good after your pizza comes out of the oven. If you're using your wood-fired oven, after you're finished baking all your pizzas, you want to have the temperature down to about 500 degrees or less. And typically if you leave the door open, it'll come down while you're eating your pizza, and then you can have this ready to pop in. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I want to make a nice round. So you can see I'm kind of manipulating a little bit, not too unlike our pizza. Okay, so you can kind of help thin it out a bit and then use our rolling pin to roll it out. So we'd like something that it resembles kind of a circle, but because it started out square, it's not going to be exactly a circle, which is fine. You want to be able to fit a pie plate in it with a couple of inches of overhang to come over. So I've got one already completed there on the other side, and you'll see I've got a glass pie plate on there just to illustrate. So when I'm done this one, I will show you what we're looking for. So you want ample room for all the fruit in the middle, and you want to be able to fold over the crust nicely. So I can feel it's a little thicker on this side, so we want it all even. You can even pull on it a bit if you see it thick. It's very forgiving. Puff pastry is pretty resilient. It's not really delicate, which is why we love it. You can do lots of things with puff pastry, and although you can make puff pastry from scratch, but it's a ton of work, and you can get very good quality puff pastry at your local grocery store in the freezer section. So it's kind of one of those things that no one's going to really know the difference if it's homemade, and it'll save you so much time, and everyone will be so impressed by your lovely dessert. Okay, so you can see this is not really looking round, but I do want to be able to fit my pie plate on there, and it is fitting on there, and that's going to give us a couple of inches all the way around of overhang, which is exactly what we want. Okay, so you can put this aside while we prepare our filling. Okay, here we are. We've got 2 different fillings here that I want to tell you about. So the one in front of me here is seasonal peaches and plums. And what I did was I peeled the peaches and then I just cut them into little wedges, okay? With the plums, I left the skin on. I cut them in half, removed the seed, and then cut them into tiny little wedges. And you can see just the colors together. These are really nice. Okay. Then for the apples, what we've done is we quartered the apples, and then each quarter we sliced into about 3. So they're like thin slices. And we even mixed a variety of apples, just whatever we had. So for 5 cups of fruit, we have 5 large apples there. For 5 cups of fruit here, I have 4 large plums and 4 large peaches. Okay, now you can add lemon juice. That's optional, and that just helps with the fruit so it doesn't brown, especially with the apples. It also adds a little bit of flavor. So we'll just catch our seeds and we will squeeze that in there. I find the lemon juice and especially the lemon zest really brighten up the fruit flavor. So each of us are going to add about a teaspoon of finely grated lemon zest, and that will do a lot even though there's not much. These are classic seasonings that go with a lot of fruit. I really like to add the lemon juice and zest to all my apple pies and many of my fruit pies. Okay, so the next step after we do that is the cornstarch. Now, depending on your fruit and how dry or wet it is, you'll see there's a big difference between these two. That's why we have between 2 tablespoons and a 1/4 cup of cornstarch. So my fruit here is typically a little wetter. When it starts to bake, it's going to really liquefy, okay? So I'm going to add 2 tablespoons and about another half. Okay, and then for the apples, I think 2 tablespoons should be fine. Now, if you were doing strawberry rhubarb, those are really wet, and you'd probably want to get up to maybe a 1/4 cup of cornstarch or more. Okay, so anything that's going to get really juicy when it bakes, or maybe if it's really overripe fruit that's really soft, you want to compensate for that and add a little bit more cornstarch. But for apples, typically that are a little bit drier, 2 tablespoons should be fine. Unless you're using something like a Macintosh, which is very wet apple that does get really soft, you might want to increase the cornstarch as well. Okay, so next is our sugar. Now in the recipe I say a 1/2 cup plus, okay? So that again depends on your fruit. I'm gonna add a 1/2 cup. So this is a 1/4 cup measure, so I'm going to add a 1/2 cup. We're going to put 1/2 cup in the apples as well. And the apples should be fine. I don't know how sweet these peaches are, or these plums for that matter, because I didn't taste them. But you may wish to adjust if necessary. If you were doing strawberries and rhubarb, for example, the rhubarb is a little more tart, so then you may wish to add a little bit more sugar. So, and that's a personal preference too. I like a little bit of tart myself. Not everybody does. Okay, and then we're going to go in with our seasoning here. A 1/2 teaspoon would work well both for my fruit combination and for the apples. So let's do a 1/2 teaspoon of ground cinnamon for each. Now, if you were doing strawberries and rhubarb, you might not want to put the cinnamon in. The lemon zest and the sugar and the cornstarch might be all you would like to do. And if there's another spice or flavoring you would like to add in, please do. Because this is a base recipe that you can adapt to a number of different things. Okay, and then there's a pinch of nutmeg if you wish. I like nutmeg with both peaches and with apples. So you can see how much wetter this one is than the other dessert. And actually, having said that, now that I see all that liquid down there, I think I'm going to put in another 1/2 tablespoon for this. So sometimes you just have to use your instinct. Okay, so this wetter fruit was a total of 3 tablespoons of cornstarch. The apples were just 2. Okay, so we've got our filling ready. Let's fill our free-form pie. Okay, I want to show you another topping, or filling rather, that I have here. And this is fresh blueberries. So I've got 2 containers of fresh blueberries. a little bit of lemon zest. I've got the 1/2 cup sugar, 2 tablespoons of cornstarch, and the 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon. I'm going to leave out the nutmeg for this one. And then I've got another sheet rolled out. We're going to test it and make sure it is at least as big as a pie plate with a little bit of extra around the edge. So we're just using this to check the size, which it's good. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go in and we're going to dock it in the middle where the fruit is going to go with the fork. Okay, and then we're going to start piling our fruit up in the middle, high as we can, okay? Try and keep it in the immediate middle with about 3 or 4 inches all the way around. That's going to come up and contain this all. So we want to pile on the top. It is naturally going to move out a little bit, but that will ensure that we've got some dough left for the sides. Okay, so we're going to pile those all up beautifully. There's not a lot of sauce left here, so we can add that. If you had a runnier fruit, you may wish to leave a little bit of the sauce behind. Okay, so now what you're going to do is you're going to pull up the dough and you're going to be essentially folding it around. And we're going to use a little bit of our egg wash here. So I've got 1 egg that I've beaten up, and it's going to be like a glue. It's going to help us kind of stick our dough. Okay, so we're going to use it to have the little pieces that are folded. So you can see I'm putting it inside. Imagine it's glue, and you're just using it to keep everything together. We are eventually going to brush that all around, so don't worry if you get a little extra on, because it's eventually all going to be covered. So you can see how I'm just kind of folding it as I go and then sticking it together. Now we're going to take the remaining and we're going to brush it all on here. This will help it get nice and golden brown, a beautiful color on it. And now you can use regular sugar, or if you can find the coarse natural sugar, brown sugar in the grocery stores, just where all the baking goods are, it makes for a really nice crunchy crust. So you can see there, and it sticks on nicely. So we're gonna stick that on. Okay, so your oven, if you're using a stone, it should be preheated to 475 for your home oven. If you're using your wood-fired oven, it should have cooled down to at least 500 degrees. Okay, if you're using your home oven, you can actually reduce the heat to 375 before you pop it in. Okay, we're going to slide it onto the peel, and we're going to slide it into the oven, either the home oven or the wood-fired oven in your backyard. Okay, so the easiest is to pull your rack out with the stone and just gently slide that on and close the oven door and leave it for 40 to 45 minutes. Okay, and here is our last one. There you have it. 3 beautiful free-form pies. So quick, so easy. I hope this video inspires you to make one of these lovely, delicious desserts for your pizza party, or even just for a weeknight dessert when you need a quick dessert. Ciao for now.